This week, I'm bringing you a recipe from the month of January from the calendar book of natural beauty. The name of the recipe is Food Cream for Tired Skin. And the reason this recipe is in January is because the assumption is that between all the various holidays that occur in December, not to mention New Year's and basically the end of year holidays, and all the sweets people eat, and a lot of people consume alcohol, and not necessarily small amounts of it, all these things start affecting your skin. And come January, you need to do something to refresh it. Now, I don't drink alcohol, though I do probably eat more sweets than I should. But in January, I didn't have this issue. And then in January and February, I kept getting sick. And after 2 months of being sick for pretty much every 2 weeks out of 3, it started showing on my skin. So I thought, I'm going to give this a try and see if it helps. So this is a little more complicated than some of the other recipes I've done, but it involves the use of collagen. So I think this could turn out to be quite useful. The first thing you need to do to make your facial is to make the base for it, just like when I made the apple facial a few months ago. It's not identical, however. Just like with the apple facial, we start with half of our oil. Now, this recipe calls for a cold-pressed salad oil, which normally would mean a cold-pressed safflower oil if you can find it. Recently, I cannot. So normally in recipes like this, I would then use my cold pressed olive oil, but this is being blended. And I do not like to blend my olive oils. Unlike when this recipe was made, the blenders we use nowadays blend at a much higher speed and a lot more force, especially something like the Ninja that I'm using. And this actually can damage the fat molecules with olive oil because they're so large. So instead of using the cold pressed olive oil or the cold pressed safflower oil, which I can't find, I bought this expeller pressed grapeseed oil because I know that this is supposed to be really good for the skin. And I don't know if it's cold press or hot press, but I think it will work. So that's what I'm using. If you can find a cold pressed safflower oil, use it. But I put half of this in. So I want half of my 1 cup of oil in here. Let's see, that's only 1/4. And that is close to 1/2. All right. Now to this, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. Buy apple cider vinegar that comes with the mother. It's a much better quality. There's a lot more nutrients in it, and it hasn't been chemically aged like a lot of the ones that you'll find on the shelf. The ones that have been chemically aged are missing the nutrients that we want from this. So make sure and get one that has been naturally aged with the mother still in it. Then I have a 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt right here. And that goes in also. If I can get it to stop sticking to the bottom of the bowl. And then my last ingredient is a fertilized egg. Now, my sister keeps chickens and ducks. I'm not sure which one this is. And so I can just go and get an egg from her. If you can't do that, there are natural grocers and food stores that will carry fertilized eggs. If the thought of using a fertilized egg freaks you out, just buy something from a free-range chicken. It's as close as you can get. But the fertilized eggs do have more nutrients in them, which is probably why it's called for in this. So let me put that in there. Still don't know if it's a chicken or a duck egg. All right. Let me move this to the side. And I'm going to blend this until it thickens. I think that's starting to thicken. Okay, so now that it has started to thicken, I'm going to start slowly adding a little more oil at a time. If your blender has a spout, you can drizzle it in slowly. This one does not, so I'm just going to have to add a little, blend it, add a little. Now, as it thickens and becomes really thick, I can add a little more each time, but do not overdo it, or it's just going to be a pain. It will have trouble. If you put too much oil at once, it will have trouble emulsifying it all at once. All right, let's take a look at that. And I'm going to take a moment to scrape down this side. You may want to do that occasionally to make sure it all gets emulsified. Now, a little bit of the science behind this, if you're not familiar with it, the reason there's an egg in this is that the yolk in the egg has these interesting receptors that can both bond with waters and oils or with vinegars. And this allows a mixture like this that has both the vinegar and the oil in it to bond together, where normally you wouldn't be able to get them to come together. So you cannot do this without the egg, I'm afraid. If you're someone who doesn't like using eggs, this is not the recipe for you. And each time I do this and add more oil and it thickens it a little more, the stuff I'm having to scrape off the top gets thicker too. I've done a little, cleaned things up. Let me show you what this looks like. See how thick that is? If you have ever made homemade mayonnaise, that's basically what we've done. Except there's no extras, no chemicals, none of it. And this is supposed to be so good for your skin. So if you make this and you get this result that's this nice and thick and creamy, then you did it right. So now I need to assemble the actual facial. This base is actually enough for 2 batches. I will be using half of it and then refrigerating the other half and saving it for when I've used up the first batch. So for the actual facial itself, I'm going to use this cup. And the first thing I need to do is to put a half a cup of the base, the facial base, in here. So I will set this aside and bottle it and refrigerate it for a later batch. Now to this, I'm going to add 2 more ingredients. One of them is called oatmeal water, and it's really easy to make. You take 2 cups of oatmeal, 2 tablespoons. You take 2 tablespoons of oatmeal and you put it in 6 tablespoons of hot water, and then you wait at least 5 minutes before straining it, and you use the water that comes off. That was most of the liquid. I could have gotten more if I'd squozen it, but I only need 2 tablespoons. So that is going in here. Not yet though. Before I put this in, I need to add this. This is collagen. 2 tablespoons of collagen. And I picked this up at a health food store. It's basically this. They make these that you can just add to your drinks for people who need it in their diet. And this was not quite a full 2 tablespoons, so I had to get 2 of them. It took probably 1 1/3 of one of them. But I need to mix this into here. There's my collagen. And I have my... So I'm just going to mix that in, and then I'm going to add my 2 tablespoons of my oatmeal water, which is surprisingly thick also. You know what? I am going to get a bowl to move the rest of this into, or a container of some kind. And I am going to blend this in my blender to make sure it all comes together. So give me a minute, I'll be right back. Okay, I have done a little cleanup and I transferred the rest of the base into here. This might actually be a cup, which means I would actually have enough for 2 more batches, not 1. But let's finish this one first. All right, now if I've done this right, oh yes, that looks much better. So this is what my finished facial looks like. So you can see it's thinner, but the collagen is now completely dissolved, which is what I wanted. So time to use it. Okay, so how to use it. Now, this is a facial, not a cream, which means you're putting it on your face and then you're not leaving it on, you're washing it off. So, there. You clean your skin, which I did. I have not put any foundation on, so I usually don't wear foundation, but especially this time I did not put any foundation on. So my skin is clean and I won't be putting it on my eyes, so we're good there. And you rub it into your skin, your face and your neck. So I'm just going to dab my fingers in and then rub it in. Go. Face and neck. Now I know I said this wasn't as thick, but probably because of the collagen in it, as it's sitting, this is getting thicker. So it will be thicker, especially once it's refrigerated. Now that I have that on, I'm just going to leave it on for 15 minutes to half an hour, and then I will wash it off. So it has been half an hour and I rinsed it off with warm water and wiped it clean with a dry, soft towel. And my skin feels quite soft now. I mean, it really did soften it up quite a bit. I think this is probably one of the largest results I've seen in a long time. Now, will I use it? Absolutely. I'm going to use this stuff up until it is gone. I've bottled both of them now. This is the base. I double checked my sizes. This is a full cup, so I have enough here for 2 more batches. And then this is how much it made up. It made up, once I whipped it with the additional 2 ingredients, made up almost an entire cup as well, even though I only started with a half cup of the base. So that's my facial. Now, the recipe says to use this every night for a month. So I'm going to see if it lasts me a month. I think there's definitely enough here for a month. Question is, will it last longer than that? But either way, I'm definitely using this. This really works. So every night now, as part of getting ready for bed, I'm going to wash my face and then put this on, wait half an hour and rinse it off. And we'll see what it does for my skin. I'm already, just with one application, so very, very, very happy with the results. That collagen can really make a difference, I guess. I mean, I already knew that the facial was good for you. I've done other facials from the book, but this one really, really moisturizes. My skin is I just can't stop touching it. My skin is so soft. So if you have tired looking skin, whether it's because of environmental factors, or you've been sick like I was, or maybe you like to go out and party, whatever the reason is, if your skin is looking tired, give it a try. Maybe it will work for you. Now, I love you all, whether new or old. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next week. Until then, whether making homemade facials or anything else, just remember, don't be afraid to suit yourself and make whatever it is you do exclusively you. The recipe is named food, just forgot the name. Food cream for tired skin. There we go. For your facial, that's it. I gotta admit, this smells good.